What's up guys, my name is Ace, and today we got a big patch that many people were hoping for in XDefiant for quite some time, and this is the one that added sniper flinch as well as a jump spam and crouch spam penalty, on top of several other things that I wanted to cover in today's video. And then on top of that, toward the end of the video, I do want to have a quick recap of what we can expect for Season 1 of XDefiant, since a lot of that has been revealed at this point, and I planned on making a separate video on that, but it just didn't fit into my schedule, so I thought I'd tag it on to the end of this video. But without further ado, let's dive right into the patch notes for today's update. And the first thing to talk about here is they added an aiming penalty for players who go to town on the jump/crouch buttons. And this is a mechanic we have seen in pre-release builds of the game, but it didn't make it into the build at launch, so you could jump or crouch spam with zero penalty whatsoever. And this is what it looks like. It is pretty extreme. If you spam that jump button, I am not touching my aiming stick at all here. This is 100% the game doing it for me. That is a crazy amount of aiming penalty for spamming the jump button, and it looks exactly the same when you spam the crouch button. If you do that too much, you get that same sort of penalty where your aim just goes all over the place. Now, it is worth noting with this only really applies if you're spamming the jump or the crouch really heavily. In fact, it only starts to kick in after the third consecutive jump without any pauses in between those jumps, and if you do take a little pause between the jumps, this just doesn't kick in at all. And what this means is, honestly, I don't see this affecting too many of those gunfight situations where you have somebody that just quickly jumps from one direction to the other direction, and they get those 2 or 3 quick jumps in the middle of a gunfight. I mean, typically the gunfight will be over after that second or third jump. So I am curious to see how this ends up playing out over time. I still think we're going to be seeing plenty of bunny hopping in gunfights. It's just that now people will have to be more careful with that to ensure that they're not doing any more than 3 jumps, so this aiming penalty doesn't kick in against them. And it's the exact same thing with crouch spam. I just mainly focus on the jumps here, since that's the primary thing that people have complaints with in XDefiant. Now, another thing to point out here is it appears the timers are separate for your jump spam and your crouch spam. So this means you can still combo jump and crouch spamming together with no penalty kicking in whatsoever, because as you're crouching, your jump spam timer will be resetting, and then as you're jumping, your crouch spam timer will be resetting. So perhaps we'll start to see people chaining those together a little bit more. In either case, that's the penalty. As long as you're not spamming more than 3 in a row, you should be totally fine, and you won't be experiencing any of this aiming penalty. Next up, something I wanted to do some testing with here. Unfortunately, I don't have any pre-patch testing, and I can't find any gameplay where I have this happen, but something you guys may have noticed playing XDefiant since launch is if a grenade goes off somewhere in the vicinity, even if it's not really that close to you and it doesn't deal damage to you, it can create pretty extreme camera shake, and it makes it really difficult to win a gunfight, I find, when that camera shake is applied in the middle of a gunfight. And what they've done with today's update is they've made it so you don't get that camera shake unless you're taking damage from an explosive. Then you still will see some camera shake apply, although it does appear to be purely camera shake. My reticle here doesn't seem to move at all, it's just the camera that's shaking. And that's definitely a welcome change. It has been pretty frustrating when you're not even near that grenade that goes off and it's far from dealing damage to you, but it still throws you off in a gunfight, makes it difficult to track your target. And that should no longer be happening unless it's dealing damage to you. Next up, there were several fixes to the social side of things, so they just fixed like some Xbox-specific issues with the Xbox button breaking in the in-game social tab menu. They fixed an issue that allowed blocked players to read your chat messages. They tweaked the way the ping is calculated in matchmaking, so you'll have access to a wider group of players who share your ping characteristics. And that one seems interesting, since that appears to be affecting actual matchmaking, not just the social side of things, but the actual matchmaking in-game. Hopefully that's the type of thing that will improve connections at least to some degree. Next, players were unable to join a nearly full game in progress despite being invited by somebody already in the game. And then finally, for this social section, they fixed an issue where players could join a game in progress that didn't fit their meticulously customized controller and matchmaking settings. So it does appear in some cases the matchmaking was ignoring your input-based matchmaking setting, and possibly even your crossplay settings. After that, there was a mention about netcode, and apparently they found a bandwidth issue with Libertad's healing abilities, where this was just soaking up additional bandwidth, and they have now taken care of that. So hopefully this is one of those things that'll make the connection experience feel even just a little bit better. Although I do want to be clear, I definitely don't expect one single update to suddenly solve all the netcode and connection issues in the game. It's typically not how things like that work. This is the type of thing that needs to be worked on continually over time, and I more so expect it to just get slowly better update after update. But I am really curious to hear from you guys that have played since this update today. Has your connection experience felt any better so far, or is it still not so great? Next with this update, with the factions, they added additional fixes for Echelon players using the digital ghillie suit, that active camo that makes you nearly invisible. Apparently there was still a bug with this that would make it last for an entire life for a player instead of just that short period of time that it's supposed to last for. And then for Libertad players, it looks like they just added some more of those little messages that are attached to your player after a game, like the ones that tell you who had the highest kill-death ratio or who showed up to the match, for instance. It appears they've added some additional ones to give recognition for Libertad players and their healing abilities. Next, they listed a bunch of miscellaneous changes, so just various crash fixes. They reduced the pop-up frequency of the ban for toxicity notification. They fixed an issue preventing players from deploying abilities and devices after changing control input. The Buzzkill achievement wasn't unlocking, but now it unlocks. And previously, cosmetic items were displayed as available in some places, but not in the place where you could actually get them. And with all that out of the way, I decided to save the weapons portion for last here. The first thing they did here is when holding your breath, if you're using a high zoom optic and a gun that's capable of having you hold your breath, now you're not going to be able to strafe at full speed. It is going to slow down your strafing ability quite considerably now. And I think that makes sense. If you're getting that added stability, then you shouldn't also be able to strafe super quickly in a gunfight. And then on top of that, they revamped how snipers flinch when they're tagged by enemy fire. They increase the amount of flinch you experience, and they keep it going through multiple hits. And for this, I went in, did some very painful testing in public matches because I'm just trying to aim down sight at enemies and let them shoot me and kill me. And it's so hard to not pull the trigger on them, but this is what the sniper flinch looks like post-patch. As you can see, it appears we're capable of flinching either upward or downward, and I'm not entirely sure if this is totally randomized, and since we don't have proper custom games, I can't confirm this with absolute certainty. But at least in this one example, I noticed that enemy players using an ACR, which deals 21 damage to the body and 29 to the head. When I get flinched upward, he dealt 21 damage to me. When I get flinched downward, he dealt 29 damage to me. So it appears that shooting snipers in the head will cause them to flinch downward, whereas shooting them in the body will cause them to flinch upward. And if that's the case, I love the idea of that because it's going to reward you even more for going for headshots against sniper players, because being flinched downward for a sniper is generally far more punishing than being flinched upward, since upward is where your one-hit kill multipliers are, and if it's always flinching you upward, then you can just sort of aim at their belly button and expect to be flinched up into their upper torso zone where you get a one-shot kill. But even if I'm wrong on that, and this is just a totally random chance, like no matter where you shoot them, it's going to randomly decide to kick them either upward or downward, even then, that's just going to reduce the consistency a lot for those snipers and prevent them from really easily getting around the flinch mechanic by simply aiming lower all the time. In this case, at least based on this limited testing that I've done, keeping in mind I don't have a ton of playtime after this update at this stage, so I haven't played against a bunch of really good snipers yet, and I haven't really played trying to use the snipers a whole lot yet. But at least based on what I'm seeing here, this should really help get the snipers under control in this game, and I'm really liking what I'm seeing here so far. And there we go, that's going to wrap it up for all of the changes that took place with today's update in XDefiant. Now, at the end, I just wanted to tag on a brief section, quickly going over the main items we can expect to see with Season 1 of XDefiant, which is confirmed to be coming on July 2nd. And the first thing is we'll see a brand new faction called GSK, and with these, it looks like they're going to have a shield, although it's different from the Phantom shield that we currently have. And then it also looks like there's going to be some kind of a tactical camera you can place on a wall, and perhaps that'll tag enemy players. Next, there are going to be 3 new maps added throughout the season, 1 per month, and these are Clubhouse, Daytona, and Rockefeller. Then on top of that, throughout Season 1, we're going to be getting Capture the Flag, and I think Capture the Flag is going to play super well for this game. I really like the idea of Capture the Flag with all the abilities and everything, so definitely looking forward to that. But on top of this, they mentioned we're going to be getting a Search and Destroy style game mode before Season 1 launches. At least that's what they're aiming for, so that's good to see. And then on top of that, Mark also confirmed that they're going to be adding Team Deathmatch before Bomb comes out, so that one could be coming within the next week or 2 even. And I know many people want to see a TDM style mode. Then on top of that, we're getting 3 new weapons with Season 1. It looks like an assault rifle, a sawed-off shotgun, and the L115 sniper rifle. And then there's a few other little details, like it looks like weapon inspects will be added to the game, and a bunch of cosmetics, obviously. I'm not going to dive in frame by frame at this stage. But with that, this is where we're going to wrap up today's video, and this is where I'm really curious to hear from you guys in those comments down below. How are you feeling about today's update in XDefiant? Are you guys generally happy with the bunny hopping nerf, as well as the type of flinch that they added for sniper rifles in the game? Just let me know all of those thoughts down below. If you enjoyed the video, a like rating is always appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.